All right, everyone. This is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So once again, we're gonna try to get to the Shonen Jump stuff as it drops. Yeah, like I said, it's probably gonna be a little bit inconsistent with when I upload and record stuff the next couple of weeks, just because I've been busy with work, doing overtime, bunch of stuff like that. So I will be basically doing the videos whenever I have the energy, whenever I have the mood. But I will, like I said, try to be consistent about it, so we'll see how well that goes. But I've got my coffee or my tea with me this morning, and I'm up, so let's get to it. Like I promised I recorded the videos on Friday, but they dropped yesterday. But like I promised in the Ikane and Kaiju videos, we're going to play some catch-up this weekend, so we're going to catch up with some Spy Family, the recent chapter of Akane. We're going to get around to the last couple of chapters of Goku Rakugai, so that we're caught up with that series as well. Then expect at least one Yona of the Dawn read-through video sometime today. Haven't decided if I'm doing more than that, but we shall see. But without further ado, let us dive into Spy Family Mission 77 by Tetsuya Endo. Translation by Casey Lowe and lettering by Irina Mappa. And yeah, this does not look like it's going to be... Looks like we're doing another filler chapter, which is what it is, but whatever. But yeah, let's get into it. So we have... at the Eden Academy. It's the background tutor bros waking up with the jolt in his bed, as you have Thomas Austin, Cecil Hall, tutor in residence, 55 years old, 30 years of teaching experience. And he's just like sweating and dripping. He's like, just a dream? And you hear, not again. He's like, pipe down, I'm trying to sleep from this, I assume. God, this guy's already got a shit on life. So his wife and him are apparently sleeping in separate beds, and from the next bed, she's like, pipe down and trying to sleep, mutter. And he says, sorry. And you see a blup blup as he pours himself a glass of milk and then chugs it down. Jeff, I've had so many nightmares lately. Is it because of the hijacking? Oh, God, of course. Of course, that's where we're going with this. And you thinks back to Henderson telling him, I could introduce you to an excellent psychiatrist if you like. And he sees Lloyd Forger's name and number and a little written piece in his wallet. So he goes to the office and he goes, so Mr. Henderson gave me your contact information and well... And you see Lloyd just like smiling all nicely as he's offering some tea. He's like, it's very nice to meet you, Mr. Austin. I'm so glad that you decided to come talk to me. And Lloyd's like, I can mine this guy for information. He's like, care for some tea? And he's like, the truth is, I haven't been sleeping well lately. I'm ashamed to admit it, but I think the recent hijacking may have affected me. And Lloyd's like, don't feel ashamed. You're having a perfectly natural reaction to a terrifying experience. We may tell ourselves that as adults we should be stronger, but that's simply not how people work. He's like, my own daughter was involved in the hijacking, so I'm rather close to this myself. We'll work together to reclaim your life. God, I forgot. Thomas is just like, seems like such a nice man. He's like, I understand that some of our students are receiving counseling here as well. He's like, yes, our team here is delighted to be of service. And you see Lloyd just going like, analyzing more, like Thomas Austin. And he's like, let's nip this in the bud before it becomes a chronic condition. He goes, as the tutor in residence, he's closer to the students than most faculty members. There are likely numerous prominent Eden alumni who remember him fondly. With his long tenure, he would have made a great many contacts. And he's like, and I hope you can respect that. He's like, it certainly would not hurt to have a man like him in my debt. And he's like, oh, of course. He's like, and so lately, I've been waking from nightmares in the middle of the night. And he's like, do you remember what happens in the dreams? He's like, of course, if you feel they're too painful to relive. He's like, no, I don't remember. He's like, do you think you could be flashing back to what happened on the bus? He's like, I'm really not sure. And you see him like nervously trying to reach for his tea, and his cup's just like tinking as his hands are shaking. He's like, also, my hands have been shaking and I get tired during the day. And sometimes I find myself getting agitated for no reasons. He's like, and these symptoms started right after the incident? He's like, I think so. It's like, that's right. And Lloyd's like, in comparing the content of his remarks with the movement of his eyes, his vocal pitch, and other involuntary physical gestures, various minor incongruities are beginning to jump out. And he's like, listen, I wonder if I'll be able to continue teaching in this condition. If I were to get fired from Eden... And Lloyd's like, I wouldn't be too concerned about that. Most cases of acute stress disorder resolve themselves naturally over time. As I said earlier, this is a condition that can happen to anyone with time and patience. We can expect to see steady improvement. You see Lloyd apparently like laying out his plans as the guy's letting out deep breath, or he's going through like therapist exercise, like letting your breath in and out, stuff like that, to help him calm down. I actually went through something similar when I did therapy. It's like you do the whole breathe in, like hold it, breathe out, to kind of helps like calm your nerves down, gets your resting heart rate lower and all that. I was like, well, let's wrap up for today. I'll give you some light medication and we'll see how you respond to it. I'd also like you to try some of the relaxation techniques we talked about. He's like, all right, sure. He's like, I'll see you back here next Thursday. He's like, thank you very much, doctor. And you see Kachak as Fiona comes in with the report or something. And she's like, he was lying, wasn't he? And Lloyd's like, I'm not sure if he's trying to deceive me or himself. He's like, could you look into it? He's like, yes, sir. It's like 0 minutes, 28 seconds. Today's interaction time. God. You see, at the next meeting, he's like, no, I don't really feel like I've gotten any better. Just last night I was tossing and turning so much that my wife yelled at me to stop. He's like, ha 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 ha. And Lloyd's eyes just narrow as he's like, have you and your wife been married long? He's like, long? Oh yes, going on about 20 years now. He's like, what sorts of things have you and your wife talked about lately? He's like, huh? Like I said, she tells me to pipe down. He's like, that's not what I would call talking. He's like, I don't understand what talking to my wife has to do with my condition. He's like, have you told her you're seeking help for it? He's like, no, of course not. I couldn't possibly tell her that. He's like, why not? He's like, well, because... He's like, I'm too scared. And Lloyd's like, scared? Why is that? It's like, I mean, if she saw me being even more worthless, I can't imagine what she'd say. Lord, alright, we'll see how this wraps up, but... It's like, worthless? You're a highly respected educator. He's like, never mind about her. Getting back to my symptoms, I was hoping there was more you could do. And you see Lloyd just narrowing, his eyes airing more as he's analyzing him. He's like, I apologize for this, Mr. Austin, but over the last week I've spoken to several people close to you. From what I understand, your symptoms started months before the bus incident. And the guy's just like shaking and looking all nervous, like, no, that can't. This is all because of the hijacking. You see his heart just like beating loudly. He's like, my hands are shaking. Keep shaking. I hope they'll be still during orientation. He's like flashing back. He's like, Mr. Austin? Mr. Austin, sir? It's like, oh, sorry, I spaced out for a minute. He's like, you're looking rather pale, Thomas. Should I get someone else to lead the museum trip? It's like, just a little sleep deprived. I'll be fine. And Lloyd's like, there's a stressor you've been exposed to on a daily basis, is there not? And she's like, rum. It's like something that scares you even more than the hijacking. And he sees his wife just looking disdainful at him. It's like, if you got reported to the SS for being such a slacker, I wonder if they get rid of you for me. While you're doing the laundry, go ahead and give that brain of yours a good cleaning too. Anything's fine for dinner, huh? Then how about I grind you into a Hamburg steak? And he's like, no, this is all because of what happened. No, it's me. This is all my fault. It's like, now that you're not here grinding your teeth all night, I'm finally getting a good night's sleep. Maybe I should leave you in the hospital forever. On your dime, of course. And he stands up with the, wah! And Lloyd's like, please calm down, Mr. Austin. He's like, but this can't be happening. What sort of man fears his own wife more than terror? Oh, my God. We'll have thoughts about this at the end. Fears his own wife more than terrorists. And Lloyd's like, every person fears different things. The first step is to acknowledge and accept how you feel. It's like, Dr. Forger, what am I going to do? It's like, you are going to confront your fear. It's essential that you talk to her about it. It's like, no matter what I say, she only ever responds with a long sigh. It's like, let's try to dispassionately explore the source of her frustrations. It's like, but I can't imagine what they might be. It's like, you stood her up on your anniversary, you don't participate in housework or childcare, you leave your dirty socks all around, and then there's your mother issue. Oh my God. There's your mother issues. Certainly maintaining relationships can be quite difficult, so I always try to pay close attention to how my partner reacts to things at home. After all, my true identity, Lloyd's thinking to himself, after all, my true identity being discovered, and Lloyd's like, after all, my true identity being discovered, or my marriage ending could literally be a matter of life or death. And you see, God, is it Thomas, Austin? I cannot fucking remember, whatever. instructor bro's name. I'm not even going to bother remembering his name. That's how annoyed I am by this. He's like, well, I do try to be aware of my wife's expressions. It's like, it's more than just expressions. You can gain clues about your partner's feelings from things like their tone of voice, right? Not to mention their heart rate, how often they blink, the sound of their footsteps. He's like, oh my, you study things that carefully, huh? And you see Fiona in the background. It's like, oh, Twilight, no civilian would ever be able to do all that. He's like, it's also important to properly express gratitude to your partner as well as to clearly acknowledge your role in the household and all you can to. He's like, I just can't. I'm trying hard to improve, but when I talk to her, the words won't come out or my hands start shaking and then things go wrong. He's like, just how afraid of your wife are you? He's like, we'll need to begin by trying to ease your trauma through talk therapy. Confronting one's fears is a painful process, but continuing to run away will only hinder your recovery. By facing your fears, you can start getting those feelings of terror under control. He's like, but am I capable of that? It's like, you'll be fine. We'll get through this together. And you see, oh God, at least the chapter's short, but... And you see him lying on the bed. So close your eyes, relax your breathing. I'd like you to begin by recalling a time you felt afraid of your wife. He's like, boss, stop, don't look at me that way when you're holding that carving knife. It's like, it's okay, Mr. Austin. This isn't your kitchen. You're in a doctor's office. You're safe here. It's like, no, stop. Don't rub onions in my eyes. I'm sorry I ate your pudding without asking. And you see Lloyd after this being like, authentic marriages sure seem difficult. It's like, wars waged over socks and pudding. And Fiona's like, if I were your wife, I'd never let that happen, Twilight. And you see later, it's like, little by little, I'm becoming able to talk to my wife again. Thank you, Dr. Forger. He's like, the first step toward peace. It's again, the world just became a little more peaceful. Alright, I'm just going to say I hate this chapter. Like, apart from the little comedy bit at the front, where it's just like, ha ha ha, it just went downhill so quickly from there. And the thing that annoys me the most about this, I'm not even mad that we got a filler chapter after the last arc, because it always has the trend of like, we'll get an arc, we'll get a couple of filler chapters, I guess Endo-san kind of like rests, recuperates, kind of thinks about, considers what they want the next arc to be, things like that, doing planning. I don't mind getting filler chapters after big arcs as like a cooldown. But doing the most stereotypical, cliche, tropiest thing for a chapter disappoints because I expect better from Endo-san, especially because there was so many better things you could have done with just the basic premise of this chapter. Like, if you had just kept the basic premise of this chapter that, hey, adults should not be ashamed of seeking out mental health, like help for their mental health. They shouldn't be ashamed of going to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, like to work out these feelings, to see if they need medications, things like that. If this had just been a chapter working on or talking about normalizing going to therapy, getting help, for stuff like that, this would have been an absolute banger chapter. It would have been phenomenal. It would have helped to normalize something that's very, very stigmatized in society. And I would have had a lot of respect for Endo-san for doing and tackling something like that, because very, very series do talk about, the importance of mental health for adults especially. So it would have been nice to see that explored, especially with Lloyd's line about, like, the kids that were involved in this, like, our office sees some of them as well. We're providing help to them, but it's also important for the adults that are in the situation to get help as well, because they were also put through a traumatic situation, especially because it ties back beautifully to Lloyd's experiences, like, growing up in a war-torn era, like his entire childhood, like everything he went through. You'd think that would kind of prime him to be empathetic towards someone who's like, I know what you went through. I know what it's like. I'm going to help you get through it, so that you can go back to your everyday, so you're not constantly having, like, panic attacks, things like that. Will help you manage it. This would have been a good kind of display of, like, this is why Lloyd became a therapist, psychiatrist. He's a psychologist. Why Lloyd became a psychologist as a cover, apart from his, skills at, like, being able to pluck information, like being able to get closer to his targets. This would have been a good way to have a character moment for him, to tie everything kind of together, to be like, he also chose his profession because it allowed him to help people that might have gone through similar situations to him, that might have CPTSD, stuff like that. He's able to help them through these things in ways that he would allow him to help them go through these processes in ways that he didn't or couldn't because of the situation he was in growing up. And I think that would have been a much more beautiful thing to tie into this chapter, using this premise rather than the typical stereotypical, like, oh, this meek man is being beaten by his overbearing wife, he's being abused, oh, ha ha ha, he can't stand back up to her. Like, again, a lot of this stuff is personal to me, especially because I dislike the whole, like, let's play off how abusive women are for laughs, because I have a personal thing with regards to that. And so I really dislike how many times there's jokes made of the fact of like, like women being abusive to meek men is funny, isn't it? And Endo kind of trying to like undercut it by being like, oh, but this guy's not just meek, he's also, just a terrible husband as well and partner because he doesn't pick up after himself, he doesn't clean, he's a stereotypical husband, all that stuff. Like, there's just so much like tropey, cliched nonsense packed into this chapter. And it really could have gone so many and it could have used a lot of those to talk about better things than this. Like, it could have talked about the fact that, men can also be victims of abuse as well. And the fact that, people think that women can't be abusers makes it that much harder for them to be believed. That could have easily been another angle you went with in this chapter that would have made him much more empathetic, would have actually been, again, a societal issue that isn't addressed or talked about enough, rather than the ha ha ha, look at this meek guy, can't stand up to his wife. But yeah, again, like, I'm not opposed to filler chapters, but this was like the lowest hanging of low fruit, and I really expect better from Endo-san. Like, I really do expect better. And like I said, like, there were so many other different directions you could have gone with this. I'm hoping the next chapter will get back to like the good stuff I expect from Spy Family, but this was actually a big letdown. But yeah, thankfully at least it was short. We didn't have to suffer through too much of that. But yeah, hopefully the next chapter will be better. So like I mentioned at the beginning, look for some other Shonen Jump stuff to drop this morning. We'll get the new chapter of Akane. We'll get the next couple of chapters of Goku Rakugai out. Kaiju dropped yesterday, so go and watch that already if you haven't. As always, if you like my content, please do consider commenting, subscribing, all that good stuff. And until next time, this is Ash. I will talk to you all later.